All right, we'll get started. So thanks everybody for joining us today. My name is Thao, and I'm with ProcureNow, and I'll say this, that this is definitely a ProcureNow pre-sales webinar, full-on product demonstration. We are going to talk a little bit about the benefits up front and give a little history about our company. But the purpose of this webinar is to introduce you to our products, how our customers are using it, and give you an opportunity to ask some questions. So I'm going to definitely leave some time at the end to allow for questions about what our capabilities are and how we can help you get started making the transition to ProcureNow. So with that, I want to welcome everybody and just to, again, take a moment just to make sure that you can see where the chat window is, how you can ask questions. We will support, we'll be looking at both the chat window and questions, so don't feel like that you need to go over to the question and answer just to ask a question. We're going to be paying attention to what you're putting in the chat window as well. So feel free to do that. And if for some reason we don't get to your question during the presentation, then we will make sure that we do that towards the end. All right, so our title today is Why ProcureNow Automation is the easiest. It's such a huge title, but I had no, I'm just gonna put it out there. Why ProcureNow Automation is the easiest digital transformation decision local governments can make as a key deliverable to being ready for the next public health crisis, or simply eliminate waste to save time and create more happiness. You're going to see a focus in the beginning around how we are, if you're concerned about what's happening with our public health crisis, then there's some information that we can give you to help you make that case. If that's not as a big concern for you, but you're more concerned about eliminating waste, saving time, creating efficiency, and just keeping everyone happy, and guiding them through these processes that can be complex sometimes, then we'll talk about that as well. Always love to start with this because the reality is that we rarely hear people say that they are just absolutely in love with writing bids and RFPs. If you're internal customers and if you're a vendor, that they absolutely love responding to bids and RFPs. But we have actually heard with our ProcureNow customers that we change that. And part of it's just because it just doesn't take as long as it used to. And so people aren't worried about the length of time and the drawn out piece of the process, that we can actually help you improve the quality of your bids and RFPs, improve the responses that you're getting, and then also save you time while you're doing it. So just a little bit about ProcureNow. We are a certified small business based in California that offers comprehensive and compliant tools for remote government procurement that's modern and easy to use. We feel like that we've cracked the code on how to make complex and difficult to understand public solicitations easy and intuitive, not only for the staff that collaborate on RFPs and bids, but also for the vendors who respond to them. And also just wanted to mention, for a limited time, we are offering our electronic vendor sourcing and proposal evaluation toolkit free of charge as our way of helping out the community that really needs their procurement operations to not skip a beat. So just wanted to make sure you guys knew that was available to you. Just a little bit about myself. My name is Thao. I'm the Chief Customer Officer for ProcureNow. So why me? Why am I passionate about this? I've been helping governments, local governments and state governments build technology, particularly web-based software, to help them improve efficiency, improve connections to citizens. I've been spending a lot of my career in the clerk function, helping clerks with agenda automation, legislative automation, by helping launch a company called Granicus for nearly a decade. And it was really through that experience of being on the vendor side of helping, not only helping government be more effective through automation and connect with their citizens and their local business with technology, but also just being a vendor responding to bids, and just how frustrating it was responding to RFPs and bids using the technology that was out there. And so, you know, by the end of my tenure at Granicus, I was just like, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be there's got to be a better way to help governments in the same way that we were helping clerks and secretaries to create more efficiency and create better experiences for citizens and for the staff that were a part of that agenda creation process. And so that's what led to ProcureNow, knowing that we can do that with internal workflow and automation, and then also taking that experience of working with the public, working with citizens and vendors to create a better experience. And today I head up customer operations for ProcureNow. Also, I'd like to introduce Ms. Geri, who's on the line today. Geri, could you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, so I'm Geri Forslund. I've been with ProcureNow for 2 weeks, and it's been quite exciting. I actually come from Leon County government. I was the procurement administrator for county government in Tallahassee, Florida. And I actually met Thao at a conference a couple of years ago and worked and thought that the system was the most amazing system I'd ever seen, and implemented it at Leon County. And I love the system so much that following our implementation and working on it, I believe so much in it. I thought, you know, this might be a great move to move over to them because I want to help other people use the system. So I have a procurement background. I worked with Leon County government for 10 years. And prior to that, I had worked for the state of Florida. I used to work in revenue producing contracts, and then went into the human resource field, and then came back to contracts because I just love the procurement piece of it. But I implemented the system, and we bought the entire full system from ProcureNow. So I was able to design my own templates and implement those templates. And I'm one of those people that literally said to him, God, I love this. My staff that reported into me, who did not like doing RFPs and ITBs and would literally battle me every time we wanted to do something. Once we put ProcureNow in place, they would send me emails and be like, Geri, when can I do the next one? I'm so excited. It was the easiest thing in the world. And when this opportunity came up for me to be the director of customer success, I knew it was a great opportunity for me because I believed so much in the system, and I knew it was going to help other people get to where they wanted to go and make things so much more efficient and user friendly in the procurement world. So that's pretty much me.
Awesome.
I'm really excited to be here, and welcome everybody.
Awesome. Thanks, Geri. Thank you so much. She even loves us so much that she took a couple hours out of her vacation to join us on this webinar. So if she's golden brown, it's because she's been sitting out on the beach for the last couple of days. But we're so grateful to have Geri with us. And you know, Geri also, in addition to her experience, you know, she is, and being head of customer success, you know, she brings to us also presence on the East Coast. So, you know, as we're looking to establish, and we're getting, and, you know, we're moving from, you know, being a California company to being a nationwide company. You know, she's, you know, we were just so happy and so grateful that that we had the opportunity to have her join the team. So I just wanted everybody to know that, you know, she's a resource to you, and also we're going to be showing some examples from Leon County today. So she may be able to, you know, we'll go into a little bit of detail and answer some questions that you may have about implementing ProcureNow. All right. So, like I said, I have just a couple of slides on who we are, why this is important, and then we'll jump right into demo time. So, just a quick explanation about what ProcureNow is, what our solution is. As it says here, we are cloud-based tools that create automation, efficiency, and opportunities for analysis for the public procurement function. So, what you see here, our product wheel, you know, best describes in a visual image the different modules that we have. So starting at the beginning at the top and kind of working our way clockwise, And the color breakdown is kind of broken down into how you can purchase and implement our modules. So we do have what I call upfront piece that allows you to help develop your scopes of work, help you collaborate with your departments and make sure that folks know, who's working on what and at what time, whose responsibility is it at the moment, really to help you get control over that back and forth and what can feel like an adversarial process, and turning that into more of a collaborative process. So step one, helping you and your departments develop that scope of work, and then taking it through a workflow approval process. And then at one point that turns into a decision of which solicitation process or which procurement process you're going to use. Is this going to be an informal bid? Is it going to be a quote? Is it going to be an RFP? Is it going to be a bid? Is it going to be sole source, et cetera, et cetera? And then once you make that decision, it starts asking you a few more questions so that the system will actually build your solicitation document, drop in all the proper clauses, to make sure that everywhere where it shows like the deadline date, that it's correct, and you only have to make that change in one place. And then ultimately, once you build that solicitation, you send it around for final approval, and then that moves us into the next module. Our next module, our sourcing module, is by far our most popular module, because at that point it will take a ready to go solicitation, whether it be bid, RFP, et cetera, quote, and you just drop that into the solution and prepare it to be released out to the public. And so as you see here, we have vendor management tools that allow the vendors to self-manage their profiles, to help them manage their bid and RFP responses, and to ultimately submit their proposals and bids electronically. And then once we move past that and we gather all of our bids and proposals, then we go through a process of verifying them, selecting lowest bidder, or taking them through a best value evaluation process, depending on the type of solicitation that it is. And then ultimately, getting to the point where you're selecting or awarding or recommending a lowest bidder, or the person that, or the vendor that had the highest score during your evaluation process. Once you get through that process, then we kick over into our contract tools that allow you to essentially write the contracts in a very similar way to how we were writing our solicitations, where you ask the system a few questions. Based off of the type of project that it's going to be, the contracts can be, obviously very different, but sometimes that process can be really, really arduous to try to make sure that you've got all the right clauses that fit specifically for this project. And so, again, we go back to this sort of like TurboTax-like flow where they're asking some questions and it's developing the contract for you. And then once you have the contract executed, then and routed around for approvals and executed, then this is a place where you can store your contracts, be notified about when contracts are coming due, when the expirations are for your insurance certificates, warranties, and then be able to prepare yourself for a rebid if that's something that happens, because everything is in one system and in one place. It's going to make that process down the road a lot easier. So that's in a nutshell what we do. And so what you're going to see, what we're going to go through today is, I'm actually going to start with the sourcing module, show an example of a customer who's using the sourcing module, and then we'll kind of back it up and we'll go through the collaboration tool so that you can kind of compare to see what the difference is like between our customers that use our sourcing module and then the ones that have bolted on our RFP and bid writing tools in addition to that. And then finally, I'll give you an overview of our contract management tool. And so that's our demo agenda for today, and hopefully you'll get a lot out of that. So a couple of slides on just what are challenges that we have that we're facing today. Many of you know this, is worth repeating, and I think it also because we're in this moment where we are charged with making the case for why e-procurement is so important, and what that process is going to be like. How is it going to affect you? How is it going to affect your staff, your internal customers, your external customers? How can you get this big benefit without disrupting the process in a negative way? So again, like the biggest challenges that we're seeing that just listed here, and I will make sure that you have a copy of this in case you're trying to make some justifications to your administration right now. First of all, just the problem of having too much paper and managing that. For vendors, that process, when it's completely paper-based, particularly can lead to trips to the notary, trips to Kinko's, trips to the post office, trips to bond brokers. There's already so many things that they're going to have to, actually put their feet on the pavement and do. And so, in as much as we can to try to minimize that, that actually creates a lot of efficiency for your proposers, time where they can actually be worried more about the quality of their response and less worried about are they going to get it in the mail in time. And the third thing, for evaluations, we don't think about this, but like having to manage stacks of paper to deliver each evaluator and making that switch to electronic copies only, how do you do that in a way that just doesn't create just like a bunch of emails and a bunch of PDFs in people's, on their computers? And so, being able to just give them access to all the proposals in a convenient way, so that they can sift through electronic responses a lot more effectively is actually a very key component and why we actually bundle sourcing and evaluations together. Be very careful about, if you are going with an electronic procurement system that doesn't have like an electronic process built in, how that can actually create a lot more work for you. And actually confuse the evaluators if you're not giving them a tool to help them manage those files. The next part of this is something that we don't think about a lot, but the process when you're building solicitations in a system where the system is Microsoft Word, it's a word processor document, you're essentially flattening all of that really important information into a document. And so there's an opportunity that gets missed when you're doing that. If you think about the fact that you've got timelines that you're managing, you've got specifications that you're managing, you have an evaluation process that you're managing, you want to guide the vendor in how to respond effectively and to break that out in a way so that you can manage those pieces effectively. Contract language, all the terms and instructions, there's so much that you're doing inside of a bid or an RFP, and we're just flattening it into a bunch of words on a PDF. What that does is it doesn't give us a way to get to that information and do something with it over a period of time. Have systems that automate around it. Help you, better determine the success of the project based on the specifications that were built for the solicitation. Just by putting your solicitations into a Word document and then PDFing it and sending that out to the public doesn't allow you, I say, to support your long game, which is being able to analyze that information, being able to use it to further automation and sort of turbocharge the rest of your process. So that's why we felt it was really important, and our customers are seeing that benefit of the speed of innovation that they're able to enjoy by using a system that actually collects that information through software. And we'll show you what that looks like today. We can do this without, and also save you time at the same time. Geri mentioned to me once when we first started, she was like, that process only took me a day. Now it takes me 15 minutes. And if you think about that over all of their projects that you're working on, that can be a real big time saver, but also enable you to utilize and analyze this information a lot more effectively. So it's something that we don't think about when we're dropping all that information into a Word document. The reality is that it doesn't have to be that way. Also, solicitations can become really overly difficult to read and understand when there are certain pieces of what vendors have to follow that are really dispersed out throughout these very large documents. And so just by using ProcureNow, you're able to create more intuitiveness in how a vendor reads, understands, and responds to your bids and RFPs. We very regularly hear from our vendors that say that this is the easiest bidding system that they've ever used. Finally, I'll just say, if we try to have the goal of moving more quickly and being more efficient, sometimes that can come at a cost of leading to compliance issues. Not paying, the faster that we move, the less careful that we can be. But if you have a system that already has those rules in place, so that the language is always going to be there and it's going to be the most up-to-date version of that, then you won't have to worry about it, and will actually support and improve your compliance from bid to bid and from proposal to proposal. So those are like the efficiency, happiness challenges that we're helping overcome. There's also a part of this, that we need to make sure that we really understand what today's specific issues are, particularly around the public health crisis that we're finding ourselves in. And so if that is something that is important to your administration, and you're looking for ways to make sure that you continue to provide continuity of your services, a business continuity plan, a disaster recovery plan, an emergency plan that you can kick off, at a moment's notice. This absolutely supports that. And so I just mentioned some of the things here that you see, working from home, supporting social distancing, supporting business process reengineering. Because we're based in the cloud using Amazon and Microsoft Azure, we're using the most modern IT infrastructure possible and the most secure. By doing all of these things, we actually are an important part of helping prevent another resurgence. And I say the difference between with and without during the pandemic for us was really clear when we saw. I personally saw cities and counties and other government agencies who literally had to come to a halt before they could figure out what to do with their projects, versus those organizations that already had it in place that knew exactly what to do. And so that in of itself, should be enough for anyone to realize that the next time that something like this happens, you don't have to grind your process down to a halt to try to figure it out, when you could have already had a system in place that did this, that supported that for you. And then I just mentioned, we've gone a long way to make sure that we make our solution very cost effective. And so in a time where budgets are being constrained, but they're looking to put more into these types of business continuity systems that are inexpensive but have a very big value behind it, then this actually supports that. And then, as I mentioned before, legal compliance as well. So just in summary, why is this I call it a big, easy win. It's a big, easy win. Number one, because these systems are proven, they're 100% compliant. There's literally no drawback, or the drawback is extremely minimal. Even for folks who are not tech savvy, we have found that because our system guides you through the process each time, that they tend to come on board really quickly. Internal staff absolutely love it. Bidders 100% prefer it to paper. It opens up a lot of areas of automation and efficiency, and just overall speed of innovation. I had one quick story. I had one of our customers, Sacramento Area Council of Governments, when everything started happening around the Black Lives Matter movement and George Floyd. In a week's time, they were able to reach out to the community and ask for and solicit responses for consultants that can help them with inequities that they face in the workplace. They literally went from idea to open solicitation in a day. And with all of their language in it, everything was compliant. No one had to worry about whether something was left out or a part of the process was left out. And so when I saw that, I'm like, that's really the key of what we're doing here, is we are helping folks get their ideas out into the public more quickly, but also in a compliant manner. So I'm really just happy to see something like that happen. All right. So enough of that. I had a couple other slides. I think I've sort of covered a lot of this stuff. So I'm actually going to jump over to our demo. And while I'm getting set up with that, Geri, I saw you were like shaking your head a little bit about some of the things that I had said earlier. Do you want to comment on anything of like your personal experience about how this sort of sped up the process for you? How this was, you talked a little bit more about how it was more enjoyable, but I would love to get just a little bit of color from you as well.
So when we decided that we were going to move forward, Leon County was 100% a paper-based system. There was nothing online. We used an Excel file for the pricing sheets. We did everything in a Word document and saved it as a PDF. And so Thao said, let's set you up. Let's set you up on a template. And I said, oh my goodness, I don't know how that's going to work. That's going to be totally overwhelming. And he kept assuring me it was not. We spent a limited amount of time together and we built out templates. And I'm kind of proud of the template that we have at Leon County. It's probably one of the more sophisticated templates. It is a smart template is what I like to call it. I'm sure he'll show you our magic button, which is my favorite part of the entire system. But we in Florida, and I'm not sure how many people from Florida are actually on the line, but in Florida, we have very, very, very strict statutes and laws pertaining to public records and what we are allowed or not allowed to do compared to a lot of the other states out there. So that was definitely a concern for us. And we worked together, and what I did not want to do is have 100 different templates because we needed this wording in one template, but we might not need it in this template. So we set up a smart template and it took limited amount of time. And then we turned something that would take me, and I was pretty fast on my on my solicitations. I'm going to say it took me from an hour and a half to one time we did a template and it took me literally 7 minutes to complete it. So when I tell you it was a time saver, it made us more efficient, and it had all of the information that we needed so that we were compliant with what our Florida statutes are and what the laws were. And it was a super, super easy transition for us.
Awesome. Thanks, Geri. I appreciate that. All right. So here's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to take you through, what if you decided today that you wanted to implement ProcureNow? What are the steps? And so I just wanted to take you through those steps so that you can feel more comfortable about how that process would be like for you. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show this document on the screen. This is a document from one of our customers, the San Bernardino City's Unified School District. And so they send us this. They're like, this is our next bids that we have coming up, because that's what we asked for. I'm like, what are your next bids that you have coming up? What we're going to do is we're going to take that, we're going to open it up, and we're going to turn on track changes, and we're just going to modify the language that's in there, because there's a lot of language that talks about paper bid submissions, or if you're doing it one way, or if you're using an existing electronic bidding system and you're wanting to switch to ProcureNow, then that language is going to be different. But without knowing every aspect of the solution, that would be a really hard hurdle to overcome, which is really like the first step of the process. And so it just makes sense for us that we take that stab and do that first and draft it up. And so as you see here, Geri actually went through and made some deletions and then started collaborating with the primary contact on this bid so that we can start, by doing this and collaborating with the person, with our customer, we're actually learning about how our system is going to operate, because we're actually changing the instructions in the bid. So we very much believe in this sort of doing training as we work, training as we're helping you, so that we're not there isn't going to be this moment where everyone's going to be sitting in a room or whatever, and there's going to be 3 hours of training or that kind of stuff. No, what we're going to do is we're going to get to work for you right away, but we're also going to train you while we do it. And so we go through that process. Geri and I work together on this. It took us, I would say, about an hour. And then we send that back and we have a meeting and we just confirm and we agree on any changes that we want to make. So now now you have the language that you need to go into your other RFPs and bids that you have in the future. So we've just, we've handled that, step one. Step two, what we'll do is we work with you and we'll contact the person who runs the changes that we need to be made on your website. And so we sit down with that person and of course with you, and we'll walk through what those changes, some suggestions about what those changes would look like. And so here you see, here's an example in the city of Millbrae where they just transitioned. They had their previous RFQs, et cetera, or RFPs and bids here. So they just left those there. They dropped in ProcureNow underneath it. And then they gave the public instructions on how to sign up and how to subscribe to the City of Millbrae's bids. And so you can see here that we just drop it right into your website. It's really easy. From there, I can go in, anyone from the public can just go in and they can click on a project of interest. Let's say I wanted to be interested in this janitorial services project. I just click on that and it opens it up. I can read about it, see some information about any sort of the details that we want to give. But here's an example of what the vendor experience is going to be. We're just guiding them through the process of uploading addendas, signed addenda, or it's really however your process that you choose to do that. Uploading your proposal documents. In this case, they have them upload their bid guarantee. And then in this case, because they also want to receive a paper copy of that, they do ask for a paper copy of that. So, but again, the system is flexible and you get to set this up however you want. And then I come over here, they've got a pricing table for, this is, looks like pretty much like a rate sheet for the different locations that they want them to bid on. And then if you want to have access to the original documents, you can see that there. So the process is really easy. You can ask questions to the software, and ultimately, because this one is already closed and they've already made an award, you get to see who that award went to, and also what the total bids were for each person that bid on the project. And so just by flipping a switch, they make that available. So step 2 is just making sure that we're connected to your vendor community, connected to your website. Make sure that it's going to be really easy for your bidders to make that transition. And then once we have that, then we'll move into step 3, which is actually posting our first bid. So I'm going to go ahead and do that here. So I am, again, at the City of South San Francisco, who just, and the reason why I wanted to show them, they literally just went live. It took us about a week from the moment that they decided they were going to do this to the time that they had their first bid published through our system. So I could come in here and create a new project, which I'll just do here. Just a moment. All right. Okay, why is it not coming out? Let me log in again real quick. I think I was logged into a lot of different sites here. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna draft a solicitation. You'll notice here that it says Public Works bids and requests for proposals. Just take note of that and note how when I go to some different examples, you're gonna see that that's a little bit different. And so our system is absolutely configurable. They wanted to really focus on their Public Works bids because they had a ton of projects that they needed to get done right now. So we focused on that first. Just yesterday, they came back and they're like, okay, we're ready to post our first RFP. And so we went live with that process and the language that's going to be needed for that process as well. And just as an FYI, the City of South San Francisco has just our sourcing module. So everything that I'm showing you here is what you will get with that middle piece, the vendor database, the electronic bidding, and the evaluations. All right, so I am going to click here. We're going to do a Public Works bid and just create that project. Okay, before I move forward, sometimes I get a little antsy about whether like the network is working and like if our video and audio is working. If you guys and gals could maybe just send us a note in the chat or something, let us know that you're still there and that if you've been on some of our webinars before, you'll know why, that we've had some technical difficulties with our webinar before. So if you could just give us a little shout, I appreciate that. Hey, Cindy, thanks for joining us. Thank you, awesome, I appreciate that. Just wanted to make sure that all still going well there. Okay, great, thank you so much. All right, so this is, as I mentioned, a Public Works bid that we have, And I'm just going to say, as we go through here, what you see is that it's just asking some setup questions. What type of solicitation is this? Is this federally funded or is it locally funded? So I'm going to click federally funded. And then it's going to say, will this solicitation require a bid bond? Yes. Are we going to be using the ProcureNow electronic pricing table for the vendors to respond to their bid schedule? I'm going to say yes there. And are you also planning to have them like upload a separate proposal document? I'm going to say no on that. So we're just going to answer a few questions. Step one. The next step is we're just going to type in our project here. So I'm just going to say this is our bid for bid for a, let's say, new building. And so then we come in here and we just select who the main project contact is. If there is a separate procurement contact, someone who's going to be the interface for the public, I can come in and select them as well. You can actually decide like which folks that you want to show on your site and the information separately, but this helps the system to determine who gets what notifications during the process. And so I'll just come in here and enter my project ID, and then let's we can take a look and say, okay, what is my we are seeking qualified companies to prepare. All right. And you'll notice in here I can come in and I can, if I don't know when we're going to be making the contractor selection, I can just turn that off. If we want to set expectations around when they want to start the project, I can turn that on. It's all very completely customizable. I'm going to go ahead and select pre-bid meeting and just say done. And then that way I come in here and I just put in my project dates, my pre-bid meeting dates. If I have a Zoom URL or something like that that I want to invite them to, I can just type that there. All right, so just to find a little bit of upfront information. Next step. If we know some information about the scope of work library and we want to include it in the actual, the web page of the bid posting, we can certainly do that. Otherwise, in this case, we already have the specifications and plans all ready to go. So I'm actually just going to come over here to my file system here. I've got show you my plans and my specifications ready to go. So I'm just going to take those documents here and drag them over. Oops, not open them. Let's not open them. Not yet. Sorry. There we go. All right, so I can just go ahead and upload those. Like that. So these are actually pretty large documents. So I actually did want to show you that, just so you know that we can handle very large document uploads, and it's completely free for the vendors to have access to download. All right, so that's it. So now we have our bid loaded into the posting. I'll come over here, and the next section is our submission. So what we did was we actually sat down with my main primary contact there, Angel Torres, and we sat down and we just went through the experience that they want to give to the vendor, to the bidder each time that they're responding to one of their public works bids. And so we developed, as you see here, how we do this is pretty easy. We just choose these different types of questions that we want to ask. So it's very similar to developing a survey. And so, we're obviously gonna have a lot of file uploads because there are some documents that we want to retrieve from them. But there's also just some confirmation, some yes, no questions. You can also ask for things like license numbers and that type of stuff, by choosing a short answer, type fill in the blank. So what you see here is just the base boilerplate for every time that they have a public works bid. It's going to ask them, hey, did you read through your requirements, yes or no? And confirm that you meet all of these requirements. So we're just helping them along the way. That's the point, is that we want to make this intuitive for them I call it a guided experience. We want to guide them through this process each time. And so we already have the language set up and ready to go. In this case, they just type in the addendum number that they received, 1, 2, 3, etc. Or if there is none, they just type in A. And then say, okay, did you confirm that you've completed the online bid schedule? So that would be just a check mark. I'll show you what that looks like. And then you see here, company profile. Please upload your references for a prime contractor or bidder. And then here you see that they've been actually, they're going out of their way and saying, hey, please confirm that you have read and understand what the protest period is like. And we just drop that in right there. So they just take a moment and read that. And then the next step is to upload your bid bond with some extra instructions in it, because this is different from the other sections where they're just having them upload their response. So they're just being very emphatic about that. Here's all the other forms: the subcontractor designation, non-collusion, debarment, equal opportunity, etc., certification of non-discrimination. So this is definitely one way that you can set up your bids so that you're just guiding the vendor through the process. But also notice I just clicked, I didn't make any change. So you just have to set up this once, and then every other time it's just there. So from there, so I'm not going to make any changes here because it's perfect. It's exactly the way I want it. And I'll come over here to my pricing table. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually just going to, I received their pricing table from the engineer on the project. And so in just a moment, I'm just going to find that and open it up here. All right. There we go. So here it is. Here we go, sorry. All right, so I was sent this, which is the information about the description, the quantity, the unit of measure, and their, the item number that you see here. So I'm gonna look through here. This total I can just take out because I'm not gonna need that. I'm just gonna need the line items. Let me just save that real quick. Close out. Now that I have that, I'm just gonna go over here. It steps us through the process of understanding how to upload that, and then I'll just click here. Once I click here, I can just find that here, and then just click upload. And so you see what it does is it just I have this table over this column over here, which I'm just going to move over there. I'm just going to call that the item number. So you can change the column headers to be anything that you want. I can move the columns around. I can decide whether I'm the one that's filling in unit cost, or if I want to, put in a couple of unit costs for items that are, have a hard cost that they need to include. I can just switch that over to say that I'm going to fill it in, and what that'll do is it'll allow me to fill in a few of them, and the other ones the vendor will be required to fill those in. So there's a lot of flexibility here with how you want to set this up to make it intuitive for the vendor responding. So super easy. So we're done. That was actually the process. It took us probably maybe 10 minutes, and I was actually explaining it while I was doing it. So just to kind of go through that again, answer a few questions. If I wanted to change this from federally funded to locally funded, that actually can change some of the language that shows up. Let's say I decided that this one isn't going to have a bid bond, and so I click save. So as I go through here and look, you'll notice that, well, I guess I didn't set that up right, but demo gods got me today. What they would normally do is make that bid bond question go away. But I think I made a mistake in my template. Let me go back over here and I'll show you another example of this. Let's say that we were going to upload a separate proposal upload. Hopefully that one will work. I'll show this to you again when we do Leon County. But as I scroll down through here, you would see that there would be some extra questions that come up that weren't there because we were changing the setup of how this operates. So that's essentially what happens here. Like if I said, let's move these things back, that if I didn't want to use the electronic pricing table and said no, then you'll just notice that that pricing table goes away. So that's what Geri's talking about with the magic button, that when we create the logic for it, all we have to do is you all just answer a few questions and it changes the template based off of how you answer those questions. So I'm going to put that pricing table back. And so here, let's just give it a name. And I'll click save. All right. So I'm going to just send this off to review now. And if I want to, I can add approvers here. So I can just add myself here so you can see what that's like. So if I wanted someone else to just take a look at it and make sure everything's ready to go, I can send a message to them. They may open it up, take a look at it. Let's say that I'm one of the folks that I asked myself to approve, but I'm just going to come over here to edit. And let's say that I was looking at the pricing table and I noticed that, I don't know, for some reason, I just didn't want that last item anymore. So if I were to come in here and remove that, and also just make a note of that, hey, I removed last item that needed. So the folks that you're reaching out to, you can actually just tag them if you want folks to know that you're doing this. And it will send a message to them it'll send a message to them so that they can log in and they can just have a conversation with you about that right inside of our tool. So our tool has a live collaboration features, live chat features, task assignment. So that if you want to assign someone something where they have to go in and then they come in and they make the change and then they resolve that, then you have the ability to do that right here. So I can just add this comment here. And then, so the other cool thing about it is that when I come over as a reviewer, I can also look through the revision history and I can see what changed. So if I scroll through here, you'll see that it tracks every single thing that's been made, every single change that's been made, additions, corrections, etc. So you see here where I actually, at 10:49 a.m. Pacific time, I actually strike through that. So it intuitively will help you keep track of any changes that folks are making so that you can have a better handle on getting the final approvals and moving forward with this. So there is a question, I'll go ahead and answer that. Are the agencies and vendors able to import and export the pricing table from the program, or must all edits be done in the program? You can 100% edit that. You can export it out, make changes to it, import it back in if you want to do that way as well. So notice here that this is the place where I would come in and I can upload this. So when I want to if I were to want to like export that, what I did was I just clicked on the review mode, clicked over my pricing table, and there's my export button right there. So you could absolutely just click that. It will export it back out into Excel. You can make your changes that you need to make, and then import it back in. You also do have the ability, if I go back to edit mode, I do have the ability to actually just make the changes that I want to make right here. Thanks for the question. All right. So I'm ready to go. The one thing I will do here is when I save this, I'm just going to do, while I'm in the review here, I'm going to take a look at what's happening in the background. So there's another thing that's happening in the background, and that's although we are building an electronic version of that bid, behind the scenes, we're also building a document version of it as well. So if I just load this up so you can see it, I have the ability to create a Word document that essentially has all of the information that we just posted, including your base bid, etc. So we have a rendering engine that's happening behind the scenes that actually creates the bid document. And it will, when we post this, you'll see it becomes another document that they can download in the download package, in addition to all the plans and specifications that they have as well. So we want to support folks' ability to be able to take everything offline, read through it, do what they need to do, if that's something that's important to them, and then log back in to actually do the response. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and prove this. And then I'm going to finalize this, which just locks the bid down, and then we'll post it out. So I'm just verifying the questions here. Everything's good. Don't need to make any changes here, I don't think. And then I look at my timeline here. Everything looks good. I'm just going to go ahead and post it today and confirm that. Now, because I'm on their site and they have a vendor database that sits behind it, and I don't want everybody to get those messages, I'm actually going to make this a private bid. By doing that, it will not notify the public. Only folks that have the link that you send through inviting through our tool will have the ability to respond to this. So if you're doing quick quotes where you are want to get somebody to 3 quotes from 3 different vendors, and you just want to do that and be done with it in an informal process, we support that as well. So if you're needing to buy a part for something, or you're reaching out to get 3 quotes on a motorcycle or something like that, you can absolutely do that through the tool. We encourage that so that you can continue to just track the progress of the bid through the tool. So I'll just make private bid. Did you notice that we have the ability to decide whether we want to use sealed bid process or not? It always defaults to on. But in the case of those, like your RFIs and that type of stuff, where you don't necessarily need to use a compliant sealed bid process, you can turn that off and just and use the system to do things like RFIs or quick quotes, etc., or formal quotes. All right. So one thing that our system will also do is you can actually set it up so that as soon as the deadline passes on this particular bid, system, it has the way that I've set it up here, will automatically turn it off, automatically unseal the bid, I'm sorry, and then automatically post the totals of each bidder on the pricing table or on the public without you even without you even having to log in. So now that I just schedule that and I say I post that out, now that's done. And you see here that it's a private bid, so it actually doesn't show up on the vendor portal. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to switch over and this was their actual project that they went live with, and kind of show you what's going on with that project. So real quickly, I'm just going to click on this bid here, and let's take a look at their vendor analytics. So you can see that they have had they have 9 different vendors who've downloaded the project. They've got 3 they have 3 folks who have started the application process, which means they've started drafting their response. And then so at some point they're going to be finished uploading all their bid information, and it'll go from applicant to submissions. So this is live in real time. It's the proposal deadline is July 30th. So you can see it's July 8th, and they already have 3 folks that have already started that process of responding to this bid, which is pretty good. They've gotten 48 views on the project so far, and so you get to see that. This is their plan holders list that is also shown on the site here, so you can see the folks who have signed up to receive notifications. Excuse me. You also get to see an email log of everything that's actually been sent out by the system so far. So system emails look like they've only had a couple go out, but they've also probably been inviting folks to participate in this as well. So that's why you see folks that are starting to show up in their followers list, etc. All right. So I'm going to flip over real quick and show you what the vendor side looks like, so you can see that experience. While I'm doing that, I did get a question, which Cindy, I'll have to get back with you on that. What I know about the information sealed bid, which I think it actually may go past the 256 bit or stronger question, is that those bids are held as an object in our database. So, so not only does that cover like the encryption of sending it and storing it, but you actually can't even have access to it unless you have like administrative access to our actual database. And so I will get you a clearer answer on that, Cindy. But you know, what I do know is that not even, me as a co-owner of ProcureNow, I don't even have access to that document. No one can actually see that document because it is stored as an object in the actual database. And so it is not really in a location where anyone can have access unless they had administrative privilege into our database, and even then, because it's stored as an object in the database, not even that person would have access to see that document until the application actually gives you that right, and then it takes it out as an object in the database, decrypts it, and then shows it to you. So I know we take great pains in that. I'll get you a clear answer on that following. Just hit me up with those technical questions today. Thanks, Cindy. All right. So I'm actually going to go over to visit their website. And if I scroll down here, there's going to be a link here that says projects open for bid. And so I see here that I've got a project open for bid here. It's their street service seal project. They got another bid that just went live as well. And so I'm not going to log in. I'm just going to just going to show you what you can see without from a vendor's perspective without logging in. So I'll click on that here. So I can see the introduction, who the contact person is, the timeline associated with it, the project details that we were working on earlier. Here's that vendor submission. This is a preview of what they're going to be seeing. Notice here at the top it says, in order to respond to the project, please click the draft response button here. And then they get to see a preview of the price table that they're going to be responding to, and then have access to the documents themselves. So if I wanted to come over here and just download all the documents, I can do that. But the moment that I try to interact with the system, it's going to ask me to log in. So due to the amount of time that we have today, I'm not going to take you through that process, although it is a very, very short process. The process for a vendor to sign up is literally give us your email address. It will authenticate that person through their email system, and from there they'll fill in just their name or their company name, and that's enough to give them access to the bid and to start following it. Now the system will ask for more information as they start using the system a little bit more. Do you want to subscribe to your bid? Do you want to fill out your company profile information? Give us your EIN, etc. So it will start asking for that. But for now, all we need is to get started is an email address that's authenticated. It authenticates that email address to that person. So I'm going to back up here, and let's say I wanted to download those documents. I'll click download. It's going to ask me to log in. I'm going to go ahead and just log in with my username. So you notice here it says, okay, because you downloaded that, do you want to follow the project? Which means I would receive updates on the project. Absolutely. So I'll go ahead and start following that project as well. So what it's doing now is it's actually taking all of those files and it's zipping them up. And I just click download, and it has my entire document here, a 15 meg file. We'll now have access to be able to open up that zip file and see all the documents that are in there. There's my spec, there's my plans, and there's my ProcureNow sort of the bid document that sits on top of that. All right, so if I wanted to start asking questions, I can do that here. To receive addendas and other notices, you would see those here, but I will also get an email because I am now following the project. If I wanted to share this out with other folks, I can do that really easily by clicking here. It automatically logs me into my, to my LinkedIn site, and I can share it in a private message, share it in a post. I can just type some information about that. and that's shared out to my social network. So real quickly on that, and I'll just make a quick pitch to come over to the ProcureNow page. Make sure you follow us. One of the reasons why I would say it's a really good idea is because every day we highlight one of our customers' solicitations that they have posted. So, and we do that because you get to see what it's like to have a stream of your solicitations that you would want to post on LinkedIn or Twitter as well. It's really easy to do. It usually takes less than 30 seconds for us to promote this on our site. And you see the impressions that are coming across just by us promoting this on our ProcureNow site. So I would, number one, highly recommend that you follow us because you'll get information about what's going on with our company, but you also get some really, really great examples of some very creative solicitations that are coming out right now. This is at the Sacramento Area Council of Government, the one that I was talking about, the Racial Inequity Strategic Assistance RFP that they did. And so you just click on it, it takes you right there. This is an example of Washington County, Oregon, who decided to take it a step further and to, they've created their own Washco purchasing Twitter feed. And as you look through here, every time that they post a new solicitation, they post it out there. And so, they're starting to get some followers on this, and then in addition, just more eyes on it because they're sending it to bid alerts, they're sending it to governmentbids.com, they're sending it to their Oregon procurements, and so this is just such an easy way for you to get more eyes and do outreach in ways that you never thought of before. And it's something that is really specific to ProcureNow that we make that process really super easy. All right. So back where we were here. So now if I want to, let's just quickly, I'll just draft my response here. And okay, right. And it tells you I've actually already started a proposal. So let's just take a look at it real quick. So what happens is now the interface changes and it just helps to guide them along with the process of filling out their customer information. Going through and actually answering the questions now. Did I read and confirm that I meet all the minimum requirements? Yes. Did I receive any addenda? No. Please confirm that I filled out the online bid schedule, which I haven't done yet. I'll just leave that blank. And from here now, I'm just dragging and dropping documents, which I won't do, but you can see here. So it's just, again, it's just guiding the vendor along very intuitively, telling them exactly like where to go for this information. And then here it says, and please, make sure that you confirm if you are the low bidder that you must submit this information, payment bond, performance bond, guarantee bond, but you must do that within 60 working days after the bid has been notified. Just confirm that. Okay, I understand that. And then if I were to use like an e-bid bond transaction, I could just put that number in there. All right. So now that we've done that, I would click over here and, let's just click next. And then here, this is where I start filling in my unit costs. So you see how easy that is. It automatically tallies everything up for you. And just scroll through it. It actually also picks up on the fact that if I skip over something that it won't let me respond to the bid unless I fill every single one of these out. So it is very easy to use from that perspective. And it is important for them to fill out here because it is totaling everything up. So that's why you would want to do that, want you to have them to do that. Now, once they do fill it out, then they have the ability to export that if they wanted to, just to save a copy of it off, etc. But notice I don't have my green light here, and it's because I didn't fill this one in. So now that I fill that one in, now I get the green check mark. And then I've already filled out my company profile information, don't have to do any more, and then click submit. So notice here that it says, hey, you haven't finished filling out your questionnaire, which is exactly what we want it to do. And then off we go. So that's it. I'm going to stop right there, and I'm going to quickly move over because I'm just realizing that I've blown through our time. We're supposed to end in 7 minutes, and I promised you that I would leave time for questions. Well, I'm so sorry that I did that. But I do want to quickly show you our evaluations and what that looks like so that you get a sense for whether you're working on a bid tabulation or working on a best value proposal, what that looks like. So I am going to quickly delete my proposal here so that there's no problems there, and I'm following the project. I'm just going to unfollow that project for now. Here's my subscriptions where I'm signed up for our different ProcureNow customers, so we keep that nice and tidy in one place. We allow you to change the kind of subscriptions that they can do. I can receive notifications that match my category codes, or I can just say I want to get all, and it will do that as well. So I'm going to keep it easy and keep it in one place for them. All right. So I'm going to come over here to my demo site here and just show you what evaluations looks like. While we're doing that, if you do have any questions that you want to ask, please feel free to type it in the chat box so that we can start addressing any specific questions that you have. All right, so now that I'm logged in here, you notice that I've got a couple of projects here that are in the evaluation stage. Here is one that is an RFP. And so because it's an RFP, there's probably going to be some things that are going to be specific to responding to that RFP, like scoring my proposals. So you'll notice here that as someone who's scoring the proposals, all I have to do is come in, click on the response, read their, if I wanted to look at the PDF that they upload or read their responses, I can do that here. I can see their pricing table. They've submitted like a cost proposal along with that. I can see that there. So that's one way that you can look at it. The other way you can look at it is actually just to do a side-by-side comparison, which takes all of your vendors and lines them up, lines up the answers to the questions. So if I wanted to just focus on a couple of companies here, and then additionally just focus on let's see, like their similar projects or something like that, I can just do that. And it will show me that information, just that information. So you can slice and dice, the evaluators can slice and dice their responses any way that they want to help them kind of focus on the thing that they're working on. Once they do that, let me just turn on my other vendors here. And once they do that, then when they're ready, then they just come back over here to the evaluation, open up their scorecard, and offer their results here. So here I can, if I want to change that from a 39 to 50, I can do that right here and click save and then resubmit my scores. So as you're doing that, once the scores are completed, then our system is actually aggregating them and totaling them up. So that they can, you can see like the progress that they're making on it and reach out to them if they haven't completed that yet. So let's say I wanted to sit down with Harvey and go through his pricing and look at his comments. I can just do that here. It opens up their scoring rubric, and they can quickly see their comments and their scores. While that person has it open, they can actually be going in and they can unsubmit and make changes to it, etc. There was a question about distributing proposals to the evaluation team, and if we have the option to hold back the pricing so that they can score and evaluate on merits only and then reveal pricing later. And the answer to that is yes. So the way that we do that is when you are creating the questions for a project, I'll come in here real quick and just show you what that looks like. When you're creating the questions for a project or when you're including a pricing table, what happens is, let's say I add a question where I'm asking for the cost proposal. So I come in here, I'll say I want a file upload, and this is going to be a cost proposal. And I'll say requires response, and I click this button that says contains pricing information. By doing that, I have to, it says here, when you use this option, the vendor's response will contain pricing information such as a bid table. When using a sealed bid process, this will prevent the vendor's response to this question from being viewed until the pricing information is unsealed. So there's a two-step unsealing process that we have in the system. And what it will do is it will keep your pricing tables and anything that you designate as containing pricing information hidden so that you can score everything else. And then once you've scored all of those other things, then you can unseal the bid and then designate your pricing scores across your scorecards, based off of the max score and the lowest price, etc. So we definitely taken great care to support that. All right, so the last thing I'll show here today is if this is a best value, a lowest bid, like lowest responsive, responsible. What you can do here is it just lines up all the vendors side by side. I can choose which line items that I'm going to be awarding. And you notice what it's doing is that it's adding those up so that you can see, like, you know, if you're choosing this combination, like who's going to be the lowest, you know, versus highest, versus if once I choose everything, it shows like the entire table of like who's lowest to highest. And so once I'm ready, I can just say I want to complete my evaluation. You can make that award to one or more folks. I can send an email notifying folks who I'm going to be making that award to. And then once I do that, then what I'll have the ability to do is I can say if I want to publicly display that information. So at any time you can decide that if you want to display their total bids, if you want to display who the selected vendor is, you have the ability to just turn that, just to toggle those on and toggle those off. And then the result of that is going to be something that looks like this. So if I just go to my portal here. And you would see my results, the 2 vendors that I've selected, and also including the pricing tables and the totals of each one of them. That would be public information. All right, so I'm going to stop there. I really hope that was going through that was helpful for you in understanding what the process would be like for you if you are considering a move to ProcureNow. I will open it up for some questions that you may have. I would love to quickly